Good afternoon. I will now present to you a model quite similar to, that belongs to the same family of models as our colleague from Prague has presented just before. But the time period is different. It is the Middle Ages. And also the processes are very different because it's only social and religious and cultural processes and nothing about the landscape and the agriculture and so on. So we are currently 6 on this project. Robin Curat, he's doing his PhD thesis in Paris, and he's a mix. His thesis is a mix between computer sciences and geography. And the 4 other colleagues from Tours are one is historian, Samuel Le Turc, and the 3 others are archaeologists. And me, I'm geographer. So the name of this model is Symphéodal, and the geographical framework is a rural region during the Middle Ages, so rural region without any big town. For this simulation and this model, we do not take into account the big towns. And moreover, the rural region is represented in a very simplified way, thus without any river, any valley, any hill. It is flat and completely isotropic. And the targeted phenomenon under consideration is the emergence of enduring population clusters of peasant households around Paris churches and castles. In the course of time, what are we simulating is the fact that the number of population clusters increases, and also that the sizes of clusters differ more and more in the course of time. A brief overview of the historical context. It begins in 800 CE, and at this point in time, the Carolingian Empire achieved its greatest extent from the Elbow to the Elbe, and at a regional scale, the settlement patterns were dispersed. Small villages are made up of, it is in fact a loose gathering of few farms, and elsewhere it's isolated farms. And they were not permanent in the sense that every generation on a few hundred years, they change their location from several dozen meters from several hundred meters. And the towns at this time period were inherited from antiquity, and they had only a religious role, but almost no economic. But their economic and administrative role was not really important. And then, at the end of the period under consideration, the Carolingian Empire is dismantling. So local lords have taken the power, and the regional settlement patterns are now composed of those enduring clusters of population around the castles and the churches. Moreover, the towns inherited from the antiquity have become bigger, with new nuclei suburban nuclei around the former center. And also many small towns have emerged in all regions with often associated to priories. And so I repeat here that those towns, the small towns and the towns inherited from the antiquity are all quite small. They are not big towns. So, as I told you, we have a dispersed settlement pattern that become concentrating and hierarchical settlement pattern. And this phenomenon occurred in all regions in northern and western Europe, but with an intensity that can be very different among the regions. The explanatory processes are the rise in violence because of the dismantling of the Carolingian Empire, dismantling of powers. Local lords are struggling together. And moreover, there are also Viking invasions. So the climate was really, the violence has raised. From that result, the creation of the castles, and for the peasant households, an increase of need for protection. And thus, peasant households tend to concentrate close to the castles. Second phenomenon, it is the feudal revolution. It corresponds to the fact that lords, comment on dit ça en anglais? It's the creation of networks of vassality. And from this, because of the militarization of the society, I had exposed just before, the lords need money. And though, with the creation of networks of vassality, that they can recruit soldiers or fighters for themselves when they are enough powerful, and also they can they gain, they take new rights and they impose new taxes to peasant households. Third phenomenon, it is the creation of villager communities by peasant households, both to increase their agricultural productivity and also to counterbalance the power of lords. And so, with this, peasant households tend to concentrate close to the ones to the others. And finally, fourth phenomenon, it is the increase of the religious control of the society, especially resulting from the Gregorian reform. And thus, in the society, there's a great intensification of the level of piety and devotion, and peasant households try to be, they have more and more religious requirements and obligations, and they try more and more to locate the closest as possible from a parish church. So that is the basis of the model, the agent-based model sim-feudal. Now I'll describe it, the model itself. It has been developed with the Gamma platform. It is very close to, or very similar to NetLogo that was presented just before, but it is a little bit different. It's Gamma. And it allows, the main difference with NetLogo is that it is possible to to introduce spatial rules that are more complex. And the computer programming of this model has been done, is currently done by Robin Cura. Here it is a screenshot of the model. So you can see that you have monitors and graphs, and here it is the model space, and it looks like a model with a net logo. It's the same. The small dots here are peasant households or clusters of population. You have several things I will describe to you in the following. So I don't know if Laure has said to me before that you have read, no? Okay. Because some publications exist about this model, but it's not the same version of the model, so it's different. So as I told to you, a simulation begins in 800, and it ends in 1160. So this last date is not distinctive. Just we have chosen this date for two reasons. First, the time period of the simulation has to be long enough in order to verify that the dynamics simulated are lasting. And second, it has also, the time period has to include all the major events of the considered period, so Gregorian reform, feudal revolution, and so on. The length of the simulation set is 20 years, and thus, with the time length of a simulation, we have 18 simulation steps. 20 years, it's about the time length of a generation at this time period. And the size of the modeled region is about 800 width kilometer. That is about the size of a diocese or a principauté at this period. So because it is a model, as said by Bečka, it's not exactly the reality. So the agents of within Sim Feudal are abstract representations. First agent, the peasant households, they can do only one thing, that is relocate or not. So those they have a potential to relocate. In fact, peasant households, one peasant household represents the head of its agricultural holding, and it is permanent throughout the whole simulation period, which means that it is closer to the representation of buildings, and no, même pas, but it's not a real peasant household. The lord, in fact, it's not lay lords, it's the lords which mixed lay lords and ecclesiastic lords. And each lord represents an amount of charges, but not a person. It's not le comte de machin. And each lord can build castles, and also he takes new rights over via the creation of taxing areas. And finally, the third and last agents are the parish churches. So as you see on the screen, it is a building. So it is not the priors. It's something real abstract. And what do parish churches? They modify the limit of their catchment areas, and also they launch the construction of new parish churches in their neighborhood. Here it is a table that shows you all the entities in the model Sim Feudal. You have here active entities, the three active entities. In fact, it is the agents, peasant households, parish churches, and the lords. You can see that the lords can be of two different types. Liege lords are only social, which means that they have no location. They are not located within the modeled region, and they can act everywhere in the region. Donc, their action, they can build castles and collect tax everywhere in the region. Contrarily, small lords are precisely located in one place, and that they can act only locally within a quite narrow spatial range. Except liege lords, all other entities are precisely located in the space. Another type of entities are the taxing areas, with 4 types of taxing areas: for rents, for high justice rights, medium and justice rights, usage rights, and that's all. Oui. Here it is an example of how are the taxing areas in the model. They are circular, you see here, and that can be more or less large. The biggest ones are around the castles. Here the castles are the red dots, the castle. And they belong, each taxing area belongs to one lord. And within a taxing area, a lord can collect either all the peasant households or only a given percentage of the peasant households. And finally, the last types of entities are aggregated entities of mesogeographic level. Population clusters are the aggregation of peasant households and attractive points that are located close to each other. And attractive centers are the aggregation of attractive points, of neighboring attractive points. Now, very briefly, the behavior rules of the agents. So, as I said before, the lords can collect taxes, build castles, and also they can passing their rights onto other lords in exchange of their loyalty, and thus in exchange of an increase of their power. And the power of each lord is calculated on the basis of the amount of taxes he has collected at each simulation step. In the course of time, the power of each lord can increase more or less, and thus some lords gain lots of power, whereas other remain low powerful. And to build castles, they must have enough power. When they have enough power, they can build castles. Only at the beginning, from 900 to 1000, only the lieged lords can gain high justice rights. But anyway, some small lords can obtain those rights through a donation from the lineal lords. And then after 1000, also small lords with a small probability, they can gain high justice rights around a castle if they have one. The parish churches, how they delineate their catchment areas. That is the peasant households who frequent preferentially or exclusively a given parish church. It's done in the model via Voronoi tessellation. And they built a new parish church in their neighborhood, or they give parochial rights to a simple church, depending on two factors. First, the number of peasant households in the catchment area. When too many households are located in the catchment areas, then the parish church wants to create a new parish church. And also the fact that the amount of peasant households who are very far away from the church. When peasant households are very far away from the church, even if they are within the catchment area, they are unsatisfied, and thus the parish church, because it wants to satisfy the household, it tried to create a new parish church. And the rule, finally, the rule of the peasant households are relocation rules. Here you have a diagram that shows you how is it. First, the peasant household evaluates its close environment. Is it easy for him to fulfill its religious obligations, which means in the model, is the household close enough from a parish church? Then the satisfaction of the need for protection, it depends on the need for protection, because according to the time period, the need for protection is not the same. And it depends also on the distance to the closest castle. And the satisfaction of material needs, it depends on the amount of fees that are paid off. Logically, the less fees are paid off, the more satisfied is the peasant household. And it depends also of the power of the villager communities in the whole region. And all these three evaluation variables are aggregated within a synthetic or an overall satisfaction value, which makes these three things, plus the fact that the peasant household belongs or not to a villager community. Because villager communities are created step by step in the course of the simulation time. So that is the satisfaction of the, here it is the satisfaction, on voit, ah mais on voit pas. Je voulais montrer. So on the left is the satisfaction with respect for the current location of the peasant household, and on the right it is how other locations elsewhere in the modeled region are attractive or not for the peasant households. And the attractiveness depends on the number of parish churches in each place, the presence or not of a castle, and if the castle is small or big, the presence or not of villager communities, and that's it. And then on this basis, a peasant household can either move locally or move at a long distance. A given percentage of peasant households can only move locally because they are so highly dependent on their lords that they cannot leave their grounds. It is the slaves and the serfs. Last process. It's not a process, it's influences that are put in the model. First, the piecemeal dismantling of the royal powers. It is represented in Sim Feudal through the fact that at each simulation step from 900 to 1000, the liege lords can gain high justice rights. Also, until 940, some castles begin to transform into big castles, and also at the end, at around 1000, the lords control all the areas, all the neighborhood of each castle, so that their taxing areas are covered entirely, all the space around each castle. Since 960, the lords can also give castles to vassals. And because of the rise in violence is represented by a step-by-step increase of the need of protection for peasant households. And finally, the increase of the religious control of the society is represented by the fact that peasant households are more exigent, need to be closer to the church at the end of the simulation period than at the beginning. So in this model, you have a huge number of variables and parameters. Here it is only an example of a type of parameters that are context parameters. I will not read the parameters, but it's a complex model with many things inside. And now to end the speech, I will present to you the application of Sim Feudal to the Tours diocese of Tours, the city of Tours, in the west of France. With the colleagues, we have chosen this study area because the archaeologist and the historian have a deep knowledge of settlement dynamics in this study area. And moreover, because they have made lots of lots of archaeological records, and they have studied lots of historical texts, and thus we have a series of quantitative indexes that can be used either to set the values of parameters of the model Sim Feudal, or to assess the quality of the simulation results. The objectives of the experimentation with Sim Feudal to the Diocese of Tours are both. First, taste how the all combined actions and how the combination of all the mechanisms that we have modeled represent a realistic evolution of the settlement pattern of the region under consideration. And second objective, we would like to better understand how demographic changes may influence the evolution of this settlement pattern. We have tested only 3 scenarios. Enfin, I present to you now only 3 scenarios. In fact, we did many tests, but here only 3. It is first test. It is without any demographic growth, or with a growth of about 12%, and with about not about exactly 4,000 peasant households at the initial state versus 25,000 peasant households at the initial state. The number of all entities at the beginning of the simulation have been set according to the quantitative knowledge, the quantitative sources of that we had on this region. So you can see here that the percentage of dependent households that who cannot leave the grounds of their lords is set to 20%. At the beginning, in 800, we estimate that 95% of peasant households are dispersed in the modeled region. There are 20 villages, 4 towns inherited from the antiquity, 2 liege lords, and 18 small lords. Only taxing areas for rents. No tax are collected for other type of rights. The number of parish churches is 50, and there is also 150 churches without parochial rights, and no castle. I mean, just to precise that the big enclosures or the collective enclosures that exist before or in 800 or before are not modeled. They are not considered here to be a real castle. An example of simulation results. So you see, it's each dot. It's a cluster of peasant household. It's absolutely not the spatial configuration is absolutely not realistic in the sense that every time you run a simulation with the same values of parameters, you obtain a different spatial configuration. So you cannot observe the precise location of each population cluster. What you can observe is the number of the population clusters and their sizes, okay? And also the distances between the clusters and so on. We have also set some expected results we would like to achieve those results. It is at the end of the simulation. We would like to have 200 population clusters. Donc all those numbers have been set according to the archaeological records and historical texts that have been gathered by the colleagues. And also we would like to have 50 castles. Among them, 10 big castles. It's around 50 castles. 200 lords, about from 200 to 300 parish churches, and an average distance between the churches of about 3 kilometers. So it's an agent-based model, and Sim feudal is an agent-based model, so it involves a series of random draw. For instance, to determine, for instance, we calculate the probability that a given peasant household move far away. Then with the computer, we draw if yes or not, with this probability, he will move or not. And thus, when you replicate several times the same simulations with the same scenario, you obtain different results. And that's why you have to, just as Bečka has exposed before, you must take into account either the average or the spatial deviation of the simulation results. So I'm not sure that I will present in detail all the tables, just with quite few peasant households in 800, so 4,000, and no demographic growth. We cannot achieve what we want. The number of population clusters at the end of the simulation are too low. The number of castles is a little bit too low. The number of lords, it's okay. And the number of parish churches is too low. The same with the demographic growth. With this growth, at the end of the simulation, we have about 25,000 peasant households. So 8,000 in 800, no, 4,000 in 800 to 25,000 in 1,100. With these parameters, the number of population clusters is higher, but lower than the expected value of 200. The number of castles is too low. The number of lords, it's okay. And the number of parish churches, it's okay. And with 25 peasant households at the initial state without any demographic growth, the number of clusters, of population clusters, is almost okay. The number of castles, not. The number of lords, it's okay. And the number of parish churches is too high. Now we can compare the rank size distribution of the population clusters. Here, above, enfin, en haut, the x-axis is the rank of each population cluster. Rank 1, it is the biggest, okay? And the y-axis, it is the number of peasant households within each cluster. So you can see that with the scenario with 4,000 peasant households and a demographic growth of 12%, the settlement pattern becomes more and more hierarchical, you see, because the rank size distribution change in that sense. And also, the biggest clusters become bigger and bigger in the course of time. In contrast, without demographic growth, it's the graphic below, 0% of growth. Pay attention to the fact that the y-axes are not the same in the two graphs on the screen, the y-axis. So the sizes of the clusters are lower, and the hierarchization of the settlement patterns is not so strong. And now below, the graph en bas, it's 25 peasant households without growth, and you see that it's the same without growth. There is almost no change in the hierarchy of the settlement pattern. So what conclusion can we get from this? It's preliminary conclusion. With the growth, knowing all parameters and mechanisms that are included into the model Symphotal, without growth, we have no hierarchization of the settlement pattern. And, but with a low population density, I mean the 4,000 peasant households in the model region, the hierarchization is a little bit is stronger than with a high population density. That's all.
I have one regarding, two actually. When you spoke about demographic growth, is demographic growth in general, or is the demographic growth in the for each household?
No, the size. We do not consider the size of the households.
Okay, so it was
it's
in general.
Just the number of households.
Okay.
That grew.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
That grew.
And regarding the parish, when they create a new parish church, then I don't understand actually if the Voronoi meshwork is playing in the model. Do you recompute this Voronoi each time when you create a new parish church?
Yes.
Okay. Mm.
Thank you for your presentation. It's very, very interesting. My question is, for example, in your model, when you talk about the 9th century, for example, you take into account, of course, because there was from the Curtis and Curtensis mode of production in this area, no? There was differences of dependence between villages that are the core of the Curtis and the different mancio, the different households that are scattered. So there is a hierarchization in the settlement pattern during the Carolingian period and then everything is changed. My question is how to in your model in this model also the hierarchization and change in the hierarchization of the settlement pattern are modeled, are implemented, and another question is the impact of the parish, of the presence of some churches had also an influence, not just to serve some certain population around that have to go to the church, and it's like it's a sort of infrastructure that serve the people, but also the churches could be also a place that is active not just in creating a new churches, but in control also the population surroundings, and because we know that also in this period we have also not just a religious meaning and the religious impact of the churches in the landscape, but they have also, for example, about the creation of monasteries, communities, they have also a productive and managing rules in the landscape.
So for this second aspect, the role of parish churches, they create other churches, but also they attract the peasant households. But there are rules from the side of the peasant household who are attracted by the parish churches, and so they change the location, they may change, they potentially change the location of their agricultural holding to become closer to the parish churches. The aspect concerning the power of ecclesiastic people are represented to the lords, among which lay lords and ecclesiastical lords are mixed.
Okay.
Ouais. And the taxes are mixed also. The taxes for all.
That's general.
General.
Okay. I missed this. Thank you.
And concerning the fact that, I give our colleagues from Prague has spoke about the surprise from a simulation model, and I give you here just an example. The probability in the model, the probability that a peasant household undertake a long distance move is always the same, does not change in the course of the simulation. It's a parameter. Well, we can change it at the beginning of a simulation, but for the whole simulation. But despite this, the proportion of peasant households who finally do realize a long distance move change in the course of the simulation time. So it's just an example to show you that it is the interaction of all the mechanisms that create a certain dynamics that can absolutely not be forecast or seen before, without making the model with all the mechanisms together.
Just a question about this. Is it randomly, it changed randomly, this choice of going far away, or is it increasing?
It's not, it depends on the scenario. But with the basic scenario, the default scenario, it is low at the beginning of the time period, and it increases when the need for protection and all the Gregorian reform and so on are all active.
Je vais dire en français, merci. Non, en plus, je suis totalement néophyte dans ces modélisations. Moi, j'aurais aimé savoir si c'était possible de représenter ça dans l'espace, de faire la modélisation dans l'espace en plus. Non, j'y connais rien.
Avec la localisation réelle des villes et des agrégats de population.
Oui, de faire un modèle qui visuellement soit plus...
Ben, pour l'instant, c'est pas possible. Quoi.
C'est pas possible. Non, c'est pas possible. Non, mais en forme de modélisation, quoi, qui rejoint un peu ce que nous a montré...
Oui, mais c'est pas des vrais... c'est pas
le même objectif. C'est pas le même objectif, ouais. Oui, c'est ça, voilà, ouais. Non, mais c'est ça, oui. Non, mais parce que bon...
mais sauf que ça, c'est un exemple. Enfin, les agrégats de population, ils sont pas fixes. À chaque simulation, ils apparaissent ailleurs.
Oui, là, c'est aléatoire, quoi. Ils ont été aléatoires. Mais il y a quand même la distance.
La distance pour un même jeu de paramètres, elle reste la même. Voilà, la variabilité, on a vérifié la variabilité. Hein. C'est pour ça qu'on prend que 20 réplications. On n'a pas besoin d'en prendre 100 parce que le modèle, il est assez stable. Mais quand même, c'est jamais tout à fait... C'est des petites... parce que c'est avec les tirages aléatoires, mais on ne peut pas faire autrement.
Non, mais je trouve que c'est plus lisible